I love you, Josie. Sorry, I just had to get that in there, guys. You needed that, so. I'm excited about doing the show, Beer Artisan, because I can help spread the word about craft beer around America. I've always been an evangelist for beer, whether it's starting Taplister in 2009 as someone that wanted to make it easier to find what beers are on tap, or writing for the Portland Tribune about beer when they had a guest on tap column, or blogging about beer, or speaking about beer at different conferences around the country. I just really am passionate about the people involved. And the founder of Dogfish Head, Sam, says, you know, the craft beer industry is 99% douchebag free. And he's damn right with that. I'm excited this week because the Craft Brewers Conference is actually coming to Portland for the first time in a number of years. And they expected around 11,000 people coming to our city, our Beervana. What's really exciting for me is I get to interview some of the beer legends here in town and some of my personal brewers that I've looked up to over the years. And we're going to learn all about how Portland came to be Beervana. Walking in my car right now. Gonna go ahead and meet with John Harris from Ecliptic Brewing, an early craft beer pioneer, worked at a number of different breweries actually here in Portland. And for me, I'm lucky, it's a mile from my house. Hey John.
Kerry, man, finally, dude. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, what's going on?
What are you gonna show me today?
Well, this is this is a restaurant right here.
Okay.
But we can come back and eat some food later. Why don't we check out the brewery?
Let's head there.
All right, that's cool. Well, this is it, you know. How many breweries have you been in before? I can't remember. 300 or something like that?
A few.
This is what we call the Brew House, we call it, which is actually where we cook all the works. We have a big water tank. You never have enough hot water in a brewery. These are our 4 fermenters where we'll mix yeast with the wort, and we'll let the yeast do its magic and consume those sugars and turn them into alcohol and carbon dioxide, and eventually make you a flavorful beer.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the barrels that you're using and how they change the flavor of the beer?
Sure, well, you normally put a beer in that's got enough resistance to where the barrel will help it, not hurt it. Mm-hmm. But the idea is you kind of just put the barrels, lay them down, put some beer in them, bung them up real tight, and then basically, you know, let the magic of the barrel do its thing to put its oak flavor, the flavor of the previous inhabitant of the barrel, which in the case of these is either bourbon, gin, or wine, and help change it into something special.
So John, tell me a little bit about your background.
I got my career started back in 1986 at the McMinniman's Hillsdale Brew Pub. I answered an ad, having only a little bit of homebrew experience and a love of the new micro beers and import beers that were available that beat the hell out of the Schlitz and Mickeys we had been drinking in college. And I applied, and well, long story short, I got hired. The early days of McMinniman's were really a lot of fun because there was really no limits. You're basically encouraged to brew with whatever you wanted. So when we found an old grapevine back behind the old barn at Cornelius Pass Roadhouse, we were encouraged to go pick the grapes and make a beer with it. When we decided to throw spruce in the beer, we were encouraged, well, just do it. We read some books. They used to do this. How much do you put in? We have no idea. So we put it in. It was way too much. Part of me really loved brewing with fruit. I love brewing with different ingredients. And so a part of me of coming to open my own place was about really having no boundaries on the brewing. In our first year, we've done 24 different beers. Since our first anniversary, we've probably done another 12 or 13 beers. So we're constantly playing with fruit. We're constantly playing with herbs. We're playing with Belgian styles, lager styles, ale styles. So it's really, here it's all about just coming up with an idea, seeing how you want to work with it, and just giving it a shot. The whole thing started back in the mid-'80s with the Widmer brothers and Bridgeport being the first two that started here in Portland. Education was every day. You had to constantly be telling people, no, 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 please try it. It's not going to hurt you. You know, it was a tough road in the early days. Beervana is because people here just embrace beer and they embrace their local beers and they support them. It's great.
Okay, we're just about to enter Belmont Station. I'm going to have a beer with my good friend Lisa Morrison. We're going to talk about Don Younger, the history of Portland beer, and some trends. Let's get in. What are the trends that you've seen have happened over the last 20 years, kind of the evolution of craft beer here in Portland?
Well, it's been super rewarding because being somebody who was there kind of closer to the beginning and seeing, just having it be such a minute part of beer sales and everything like that, and continuing to bang that drum all the time and being, you got to try this, you got to try this, and knowing that education is such a huge part of that, it was just really, it's been really rewarding to see it all of a sudden explode in just the last few years, where people are really beginning to appreciate it, and the beer has just gotten so incredible, but the people are still great. And that's one of the things I love so much about the craft beer industry. It's really just a great group of people, and it's an incredible model in terms of, you've got somebody, you're talking to a brewer and you're like, dude, I really love your IPA. And then he says, oh, well, you should try so-and-so's down the street. Hers is amazing. You don't really see that normally among competitors.
Another thing I want to bring up is the good old Horse Brass Pub.
Yes.
And the legendary Don Younger.
Oh my goodness.
And everything relates back to him pretty much. And we've interviewed all types of people in the industry, and it all relates. It's like 6 degrees of Don Younger, like Kevin Bacon or something.
Right. He's our own Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Rest his soul. So tell me a little bit about how you first met him, and there's always good stories with Don, obviously.
There's always good stories.
So kind of the first time you met and everything, and kind of what he's done for the craft beer industry in general, and then especially here in Portland.
Yeah, well, he was supporting craft beer right from the very beginning. When the Widmers were going around and giving people samples of this cloudy, murky-looking beer, and people were tasting it, he was one of the first ones to actually buy a keg. And he really became a supporter of the local independent brewery. He's one of those guys that you will always remember him because he has a heart of gold, but he covers it with a super gruff exterior.
So Don had his hands in lots of things. Can you talk about some of the things he had his hands in?
Well, and I think there's so many things that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
But he helped start a lot of breweries, helping out the little guys, and anybody that had a dream he really wanted to kind of give a hand to. So
was he involved in Belmont Station in the beginning?
He was involved in Belmont Station at the beginning. His very good friend at the time, Joy, and he started it. It was right next door to the Horse Brass. And back then she wanted to do a bottle shop, but there wasn't really enough to actually pay the rent selling bottles, because that was 18 years ago. And so they kind of filled it up with, because Horse Brass is a British pub, they kind of filled it up with British food goods and weird, little British tchotchke things. And for the longest time, we actually still, every once in a while, have people come in and ask if they can buy their, spotted dick or whatever the stuff's called.
Wait, this is a family show, Lisa.
I don't know what that stuff is, but I'm never gonna eat it, that's for sure.
I'm gonna Google that one later.
Yeah.
We got to showcase a lot of Oregon breweries with the Symposium beer, because every year they choose breweries to make beer.
Yeah, and I like that too, and the fact that they usually only just pick one brewery to do the Symposium beer, and this time they had breweries from every different location around the state do a collaboration on it, and I thought it was a lot more interesting. My name's Fred Bowman. I started home brewing with a friend of mine, a guy that we'd been best friends since we were both 9 years old. And he came over to my house with a home brewing book that was printed in England, and it was brewing beers like those you buy. And he was a big enthusiast of English ales too. So that got us started home brewing in my basement. And then another high school classmate of ours, Art Lawrence, came over and was helping us drink some of our beer. And we got more and more serious about it and started figuring out ways to open a brewery. And we had a lot of trouble figuring out how to finance it because neither one of us had any money. But eventually we got together a group of friends and sold common stock to friends and neighbors and raised barely enough money to open this little brewery, which continued to grow and still exists in its 5th ownership now.
Why do you think Portland is Beervana?
That's been a popular question over the years, and I think it's a combination of things. We had the advantage of having ingredients. All the ingredients are in Oregon. There aren't that many places in the world where you find hops and barley in the same local area. The fact that there was a very healthy beer market for draft beer when we started, which allowed people to start up and not do bottles. Starting and building a bottling line is almost like starting another business, really. There's so much to it. So if you can start just doing draft beer, it simplifies the entry to the business and makes it a lot less expensive. The market was very receptive when we first started. I think one of the things that helped is there were 3 of us that started breweries almost at the same time, so there were 3 different groups of people out knocking on doors trying to sell their beers, which seemed more like a movement than just, you know, one isolated crazy trying to do this. It was a perfect storm, so to speak, to use a totally overused term, but it was we had everything going for us. Still do, in fact.
Okay, I'm really excited. We're just about to meet with the Widmer brothers, early craft beer pioneers here in Portland, really and beyond. I've really looked up to them. They've done so much for this beer community and beyond, and let's go chat with them. Hey Rob.
How are you?
Kurt.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Yeah, ready to take a look?
I am. Let's get started, I guess.
Let's go. How far do we have to walk?
I don't know.
I'm Brad Pitt. I'm here today slumming with the Widmer brothers. Kurt Widmer, Widmer Brothers Brewing, co-founder.
I'm Rob Widmer, co-founder of Widmer Brothers Brewing Company.
Welcome to Widmer Brothers Brewing. This is our malt room. We have our silos here where we receive and store bulk malt. We usually get it delivered about 50,000 pounds at a time, and then we have smaller quantities of specialty malts. Some comes from Chilton, Wisconsin, some comes from Canada, some comes from a Franco-Belgian malt, and then it is milled on the 3rd floor, falls back into the grist case on the 2nd floor, and when we're ready to go, it falls into the mash tun on the 1st floor where it's hydrated. We'll go into the brew house now.
Sounds
if that's
good.
okay with you.
Sounds good to me.
In the late 70s, we picked up the hobby of home brewing, and after 5 years of that, I don't know if it was a natural progression, but the home brewing led into commercial brewing. So this is the first vessel of the brewing process here. As I mentioned before, the malt has been weighed out very precisely, and it'll come down this chute where it's hydrated. And what happens in here is there are enzymes that are naturally in the malt that convert the starch to sugar, and that's all we want, is just the sugar out of it. And when that's all done, that whole porridge mixture gets pumped over to the lauter tun. I won't open this, but you can see that it has a slotted steel bottom, and the whole batch sits on top of that.
When you guys started out, where did you get your beer equipment?
Junkyards.
Junkyards. Literally junkyards. Well, the story about our Pebble Springs nuclear power plant. It was to be a nuclear power plant, and they never got their licensing, but they had most of their vessels fabricated. And so when they didn't get their license, they gave up and just sent those to scrap. And the scrappers, fortunately, couldn't bring themselves to scrap it because they were such beautiful tanks, nuclear grade welds and everything. So we bought 4 of those.
Yeah, thanks, taxpayer.
Pennies on the dollar. They're beautiful. So from here, our brewers can play Donkey Kong or World of Warcraft, whatever.
The control
whatever,
here.
Yeah, whatever
this
suits
is where
their
you
fancy.
launch rockets or something, right?
Right. Until somebody walks in and catches them snoozing or something like that. But actually, from here, they can control the batch that's brewing, and we run about 12 batches through in 24 hours here. They can send beer from one of our cellars on this side of the street. We have a tunnel under the street. Send the beer over for clarification. They can initiate a cleaning sequence from here. All of our vessels are equipped to be clean on the inside. We use sodium hydroxide or caustic, and so they don't have to get in the tanks and scrub them out.
Come on.
It all happens automatically. Then they can go back to Donkey Kong, with minimal interruption. So this can all happen from up here.
And there's a boss button, and it pulls up spreadsheets. So is that what's going on here right now?
Not exactly, but I need to talk to IT about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't gotten it.
And where are you sourcing your hops from right now?
We get hops from the Willamette Valley, the Yakima Valley, northern Idaho, New Zealand, and Australia.
When people think of Portland, they think of it as Beervana. Why do you think that's the case?
Because we have more world-class examples of any beer style that you can think of here in a 5-mile radius, where we are right now. There's just more delicious beer than anywhere else on the planet.
The sophistication of the beer drinkers here is unmatched anywhere in the world. There's more breweries per capita in Portland than any other city in the world. Innovation here is unbelievable. I mean, people throw unbelievable things into beer these days, which I think is great. Testing the limits. Water's here, the raw materials are here, the hops, the malt. We got everything that you could possibly ask for to brew here. And there's a culture here of people that are willing to try new things.
So people who live in Portland are concerned with quality of life issues. So the food they eat, the air they breathe, the water they drink, the beer, the wine, coffee, all those things. I think that's one of the reasons why that beer has flourished like it has.
Something that we try to keep on the down low is that we actually house intercontinental ballistic missiles for the U.S. government. They're cleverly disguised as fermenters.
Oh.
We figure the Russians would never think to look in a brewery for international missiles, So
that kind of reminds me of the Denver airport. Supposedly there's something underneath that too. So. Okay.
Can't speak to that.
Okay.
And you're sworn to secrecy here, of course. But, so these are our fermenters. The first 6 will hold 5 batches, and the last 4 hold 6 batches from the brew house. But that all happens inside the tank. When it's done here, our brewers, that's something that our brewers monitor manually. They send it over across the street for clarification, and then it's ready to go, basically.
Another legendary pub we should talk about is the Horse Brass.
Yeah.
What's and Don Younger? Tell me a little about the story with him.
He was tough at the start.
Tough, yeah. Don, we had to win over, but when we finally did, he was an enthusiastic supporter. But we recognized early on. Don always had kind of an affinity more for English ales. That was kind of his personal connection. And when we came in with German-style ales, well, like Rob said, he was tough.
Put your seatbelt on there, young man. Okay, we're on our way to meet Art Lawrence, the founder of Raccoon Lodge and Cascade Brewing. They are really into making great sour beers. They found that as a great opportunity to kind of differentiate themselves in the marketplace. I'm looking forward to chatting with him. Art was also really involved in a lot of other things here in the early days of craft beer in Portland. Hey, Art.
Hey, Kerry. Good to see you again. Welcome to Cascade Brewing.
Thank you.
This is where the House of Sour starts, right here.
Oh, nice. Let's get started.
Let's go in and have a beer.
I like that, the House of Sour. You trademarked that?
Yes.
Good.
I'm Art Lawrence, owner of Cascade Brewing and the Raccoon Lodge, which is our restaurant name.
Yeah, my wife says a beer equals a sandwich, which I really appreciate that, because this week I've had a lot of sandwiches.
Oh, good.
So now I have a few more right here. So.
Well, that's another Don Younger. There's a sandwich in every glass, as he would say.
Didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, that's a famous one of Don. Yeah. You want something to eat, Don? No, there's a sandwich in every glass. Now this is a very satisfying beer. I drink a lot of the raspberry wheat myself in the summertime. To me, it's very refreshing. These two are not bottled, these two are bottled. So the sour beers are the only beers that we bottle. We don't bottle any of our regular ales. It's not profitable to go in and do those beers. There's too many of these types of beers available on the market right now. These beers aren't as price sensitive because we are the leader in the market. We're the super, super, super premium, whatever you call when your prices are higher than balls on a giraffe.
Geez, have you had a lot of beer to drink already today or no?
We didn't get into the hops arms race at this brewery 10 years ago. This brewery is one of those that everybody's going this direction. We're going to be that one or two that are going off the other way. We're going to be the spindrift. We're in the wine country here. Oregon's the 4th leading wine producing state in the nation. So we've got a lot of wine barrels here. What can you do with wine barrels? You can put fruit into the wine barrels and infect them with bacteria. That's how the sour beers are made. Once a week we fill wooden barrels with our base beer and infect them with our lactobacillus bacteria here, and then the brewery gets a 4 to 6 hour cleaning to get this bacteria out of the brewery. Those kegs are then, these wooden barrels are then hauled to another facility that we have called the blending house, where that beer is then aged for 1 to 2.5 years.
Infected beers are, if you first have it, you think this doesn't taste right. And a number of years ago, the first time I had one, I didn't like it. Now it's my second favorite style of beer. And I love that. I love the tartness it puts off, and it's so different than anything else. And so infections can be good. Art, thanks for the beer. Thanks for your time. And let's cheers.
Cheers to you, Kerry. Thank you for all the work you're doing to help promote our industry. This is tremendous.
I enjoy it. I like to think I'm doing the Lord's work now. Time for the donuts. Time to get some donuts.
Go.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Good seeing you, neighbor. She lives in my neighborhood. So this fin was put together at Culmination Brewing with my friend Brian Yeager. It's all about coffee, beer, and donuts. And so they have Voodoo Donuts here, which is pretty well known. They do the maple bacon donut. There's also Blue Star Donuts, which is probably my favorite donut shop in town. And now we're gonna check out some more beer. They've got a pretty good selection of beers here. They have Funky Buddha out of Florida, which we can't get here, so that's kind of the softer beer for us locals. And so the line begins. What do you like so far?
The donuts. Mostly.
Yeah, yep. Yes. This is Rodney.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey. Beer.
We're here at Culmination Brewing, finishing up the Baker's Dozen event. Had some good coffee beer, had some good donuts. We're gonna head over to Beermongers and meet with John Foyson and talk about his role in the development of Portland craft beer scene. Billy beer from?
That was like some kind of contract beer back in the day.
So I'm John Foyston. I've been writing about craft beer in Portland, Oregon for 25 years. Oh boy, that's good for me.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
One thing that we've talked about before is how the styles of beers have changed, and the profile of what a beer, the definition of beer has changed. So, for example, Bridgeport IPA back then seemed pretty hoppy.
Oh yeah.
And today, it seems more like a pale ale, let's say. So, can you speak a little bit to how craft beer has evolved over the last, let's say 20 years, just in general?
Beer drinkers now are so, I want something new, I want latest, greatest, and that's wonderful. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, there wasn't that huge impetus to make new stuff. Rob Widmer talks about going into bars trying to sell his funny, cloudy beer, and he said at times like the bar owners would just look at him like, who wasn't even speaking English, because back then bars had things like, two prices. I mean, there was Eastern beer, which was, Budweiser and Miller, and that was like 10 cents a glass higher than Western beer, which was Lucky, Ole, Rainier, and Blitz. So it was, that was a long time ago.
Why do you think they call Portland Beervana?
Portland as Beervana is all about density, and there's so many interconnections. The fact that you can go to a mini mart that any place else would be selling like fried chicken and cigarettes, and you can get your growler filled with good beer. The fact that you can go to a Safeway and get your growler filled with good beer. You know that the big guys are definitely concerned that craft beer is nibbling away at their numbers, and that's the case. I think that's going to continue to happen. It's just, there's going to be new breweries opening. There's more people interested in beer than ever before. There's something wonderful about, gee, this beer was brewed back there. I mean, 50 yards away, and it's just a great feeling.
John, it's a pleasure as always. Cheers.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Was his generosity in philosophy, in advice, in friendship. And so as other people saw and were inspired by the horse brass, he was generous in offering his suggestions, listening to their ideas, and giving them the advice, because again, he was one of the forerunners and he had the experience to share. And that was just part of his nature. I would like us all to lift our glasses to this group of exceptional people who, without their imagination, daring, innovation, and personal sacrifices, we would not be here, because they're the ones who started the craft beer movement. So let's raise your glasses. And thank you all. It will continue to grow until the sky's the limit. There's as much creativity across the nation as there is in Beervana.